Hey, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about happiness.
Ooh, happiness.
Yeah, right. It's like everybody wants it,
The big one.
but like, how do we get it?
Yeah.
And, we've been digging into this podcast called Curious Rays,
Okay.
and they had a really interesting episode on this.
I love that show.
And it really got me thinking,
Yeah.
because they're suggesting that, like, maybe this whole idea of chasing happiness
Oh.
is actually kind of a scam.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like we think, if I just get that promotion, then I'll be happy. Or once I buy that dream house, bam,
Yeah.
happiness is mine.
Right. Yeah. Like it's a destination.
Yeah, exactly.
You arrive at happy.
And Curious Rays, they use this analogy of a happiness treadmill,
Ooh, I like that.
which I think is so perfect because it's like we're always striving for that next milestone, thinking that joy is just around the corner,
Always just around the corner.
but we never quite get there.
We never quite get there. And it's like, even when we do, it's like, oh, okay, now what?
Yeah, it's like you finally get that new car that you've been wanting,
Yeah.
and then a week later you're like, well, now I need a bigger garage.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this whole idea that happiness is something that we're constantly chasing,
Mm-hmm.
I think is really what they were trying to challenge in this episode.
It's so interesting because it's something that, we hear all the time, right? Like, work towards your goals and then you'll find happiness. And it's like, but what if it's the other way around?
Ooh.
What if, we can choose to be happy now? And then that fuels our goals and our achievement.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So they're suggesting that maybe happiness isn't something we chase, but something we choose.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, so tell me more about, like, what did Curious Rays kind of dive into on this?
So they brought in this idea from Osho, who's like a spiritual teacher.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, and he basically says we shouldn't see happiness as like a reward or a transaction.
Oh, interesting.
Like, if I do this, then I get to be happy.
Right.
He says instead it should be like background music.
Okay.
It's just always there playing, whether we succeed or fail, whether it's a good day or a bad day.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like the music's playing whether we notice it or not.
Exactly.
It's there.
It just, yes.
So then how come it feels like we've lost touch with that background music of happiness?
Yeah, well, I think it's because, like, we've conditioned ourselves to need a reason to be happy.
Oh.
Like, think about little kids, right?
Yeah.
They're just happy. They're just, like, present and playful and, just full of joy.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, we start believing that happiness is something we have to earn or achieve.
So we're basically putting conditions on our own happiness.
Yes.
Like, I'll allow myself to be happy if,
yes.
but that if never really goes away, does it?
No.
There's always another if lurking around the corner.
Always another if. And so, like, Curious Rays, their big challenge to listeners was try being happy for no reason.
Whoa.
Right. Like, no external trigger,
A fair
no achievement to justify it. Just be happy.
That's tough.
Right. It's like, wait a minute. Why am I happy? Did I win the lottery? Is something bad about to happen?
Yeah. Our brains are looking for a reason, right?
Exactly. We want that justification.
Yeah.
But maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe we're so busy looking for the reason to be happy that we're missing out on just choosing it.
Okay, so how do we actually put this into practice? Like, choosing happiness,
Yeah.
when we're dealing with everyday challenges and responsibilities and, maybe even some sadness.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in mindset for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not about, ignoring those challenges or pretending that they don't exist.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that happiness, doesn't have to be dependent on those external circumstances.
Yeah.
It can coexist with those things.
So it's like finding the joy even when things are tough.
Exactly. Like, haven't you ever had a day where, things were kind of rough?
Oh, yeah.
But then, like, something small happened. You saw a cute dog or someone held the door for you.
Totally.
And suddenly your mood just, like, lifted a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, those little unexpected bursts of joy.
Totally. Those moments are all around us. It's just a matter of, like, tuning in and allowing ourselves to really experience them.
Okay. Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
It's not about meeting a big reason to be happy, but just about appreciating those small joys that are already there.
Exactly.
But, if happiness is supposedly like our natural state,
Mm-hmm.
why do we even have to choose it?
That's a great question.
Shouldn't it just be there?
Well, it goes back to that conditioning that we were talking about,
Okay.
We've kind of been taught to believe that happiness is something outside of us.
Right.
Something that we need to achieve.
So we're basically programmed to chase it instead of just being happy.
In a sense, yeah, like we've been looking for happiness in all the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
And until we break free from that programming, it can be tough to access that joy that's already within us.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So to choose happiness, we have to unlearn some of the habits that we've picked up along the way,
Yeah.
kind of retrain ourselves to see things differently.
It's about rewiring our brains, shifting our perspective, and making that conscious choice to embrace happiness. And it's not like a one-time thing. It's an ongoing practice.
Right. Yeah. It's like cultivating a new way of thinking, a new way of being.
Exactly.
Which reminds me, you mentioned earlier that, kids just seem to get this whole happiness thing.
Yeah.
Is there something we can learn from them?
Oh, absolutely. Children are like experts at being present.
Right.
They're not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. They're just completely engaged in the moment.
And we tend to lose that as we get older.
We get so caught up in our responsibilities, that
Yeah.
we forget how to simply be. Right.
We lose touch with that childlike sense of wonder and joy.
So choosing happiness could involve reconnecting with that inner child,
Totally.
rediscovering our ability to be present and find those little moments of joy.
Yeah, it's about reclaiming that playfulness and curiosity that we all had as children. Instead of chasing after happiness, we can turn our attention to the present moment.
I love that this whole conversation has been such a great reminder to slow down and appreciate the little things.
Me too.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap up part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay.
In part 3, we'll explore some practical tips for cultivating more happiness in everyday life.
Sounds good.
See you there. Welcome back to part 3 of our deep dive into choosing happiness. We've been talking about all these fascinating ideas from the Curious Rays podcast, and now I'm really curious to hear about those practical tips you mentioned for actually, bringing more joy into our lives. Yeah, absolutely. So, it all starts with awareness, like really start paying attention to the things that bring you joy, no matter how small they may seem,
Okay.
Maybe it's that first sip of coffee in the morning or, listening to your favorite song on the way to work.
It's like we're becoming happiness detectives, always on the lookout for those little sparks of joy.
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more you'll start to notice them everywhere.
Okay.
Trust me, they're all around us.
This makes that challenge from Curious Rays to just be happy for no reason makes so much more sense now.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing ourselves to feel something we don't, but it's about creating the space for that happiness to kind of bubble up naturally.
Exactly. It's about letting go of those conditions that we've placed on our own happiness. It's about allowing ourselves to just be.
And maybe it's also about accepting that we don't need to control everything or have all the answers. Sometimes surrendering to the present moment is enough.
Absolutely. There's a certain freedom in that, letting go of the need to know what the future holds and just embracing the now.
This whole conversation has been such a mind shift for me.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see happiness in a whole new light.
Yeah.
It's not this distant destination we're all striving for,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a choice that we can make each and every day.
And that's a really empowering realization,
Yeah.
If happiness is a choice, then we have the power to create it in our lives.
Well said. And to our listeners, if you're intrigued by these ideas and want to explore them further, we highly recommend checking out the full Curious Rays episode.
Yes.
You'll find a link in the show notes.
It's a fantastic listen. It really gets you thinking about how we approach happiness and what truly brings us joy.
So as you go about your day, we leave you with this question. What will you choose today?
Ooh, good one.
Will you choose to chase after happiness, or will you choose to simply be happy?
The answer, my friends, is yours to discover.
Until next time, keep diving deep.